Thank you, thank you. So I'm going to start with a little thing that happened to me this morning before we started with this conference. So I came up and made myself familiar with the space, and I got up on the stage and I thought, yeah, this looks really good. It's nice and intimate. And at that point, Jim Florence walked in, and I said that to him. I goes, it's kind of nice, you know. I don't feel that nervous. And then Jim said, come with me, and he walked me out of the breakout room into here, and he said, this is where we're actually going to be presenting today. So yeah, that really calmed my nerves. So yeah, as I said, I'm Mohammed Aufogul. I work at UCL. I've been in leadership roles in IT for the last 25 years, I'd say. I've been blessed to work across various organisations, from private sector to public sector, in local government, central government, and also in industries such as finance industry. So I've been around the park, so to speak. So you've got to say a little bit about yourself. So I like running, but I've been carrying an injury for the last few months, and that's the excuse for me saying is why I'm a short, Asian, bald, fat guy, is what I describe myself as. And I like hip-hop music and hip-hop culture, and I said to my 25-year-old son that, you know, I'm putting on a bit of the pounds, I'm feeling a bit old. And he, as your kids will do to you, he used that against me, and he said, well, you're played out, aren't you, Dad? You've played yourself. So yeah, family is really big to me, really important. And that's what I've just mentioned there is going to come full circle later on in my presentation. So why me, and why am I talking about IWMS to you all? So like I said, I've been blessed at UCL. I was asked to come to bring two parts of the organisation together, which I'm going to talk to in a bit more detail on that journey a bit later on, but just set a bit of context, where we established a product team for our IWMS tool, which is planned on. I'm not going to hide behind that. I'm going to share it. It's all out there. You know, it's not that secret that we're not going to share with anyone. And we've renamed it My Campus. So if I refer to IWMS or Plan On or My Campus, they're all the same thing. And yeah, so I was blessed and asked to bring together two parts of the organisation, estates and IT, into a product team to take it to the next level. And that's why I'm stood here today to talk to you about it. Again, another picture here. This isn't what's to come or what my presentation is going to be like, although I'll let you be the judge at the end of it. So I'm going to give some scenarios to add a bit of context before we go into what I'm going to talk about. So how many of us on that day, certainly happened to me, where you'll go to a toilet where you work, and it may have not been cleaned or it's broken, and you'll just think, oh, I'm not going to log this call because it's such a pain in the backside and nothing ever gets done about it. Somebody else's problem, I'll go and use the next cubicle. Or on the other side, the team that clean these toilets, they come to you and say, we want to know what toilets are busy, what aren't, so that we can send the right resource to those at the right time to make it a better user experience. Do you have that information? So you have that bad experience in the toilet, you come back to your desk, and you're the one that's sat under the air conditioning unit in the middle of the winter, and the air conditioning unit is always on, and it's badly lit. Again, you've logged it as an incident, they've come back to you and said, it's not really an incident, it's a change, you need to log it with this other team, and they'll progress it for you. On the other flip side of that, the team that look after the facilities, they say to you, we would like to know how to prioritise our cases as they come in, which ones are the really important ones, which ones have not been looked at, which ones are in SLA, and all of that information. And then the final one, when you actually get sat at your desk, there's an email from the provost saying, I want to know how busy my campus is. I want you to go out there and find out all of these places, all across our campus, which are the busiest areas, which aren't. And what's your answer to that? Most of the time, it's sending somebody out with a notepad, a flip pad, or a counter like this to count people within those spaces. So these are some of the challenges that we have on a personal level and as a work level in our organisation. So what does the internet say an IWMS system is here? So I think we're all fairly clear on what it is and what it does, unless anybody isn't. If you want to put your hand up there and be ousted. No? Okay, right. So I've got a fairly basic statement off the internet because that's what I wanted. And for me, it does more than this. And I'm going to come on to that in the coming slides. That was just a filler. So here, for me, you've got all these bits that, yes, it does cover off all of these important pillars here. And again, when my daughter saw this slide, she said to me, what's that, Dad? The 5 pillars of Islam. And I said, yeah, it could be as important as that. And what Islam is built on is a strong foundation. And down here, this is why I like this slide here, the reporting and analytics. Now, I'm going to probably contradict the presentation that just happened before here around data and storing a lot of data and what do we do with that data and is it sustainable? For me, yeah, those questions do need to be answered, but it is important to have that information that I was alluding to earlier. If our provost wants to know how busy our campus is at any one time and what areas are being used and how they're being used, then you do need that data. So this is probably going to be the most boring slide I'm going to talk about today and talk at today, but I think it is important to establish some of the things that you get out of an IWMS tool and the benefits from them. So campus space and asset management. So I put these two together because campus space and knowing all of the spaces that you have, and on top of that being able to overlay how all of those spaces are being used and how frequently they're being used. The assets that you have in those spaces, which I'll be touching on later, so knowing all the assets that you have, and especially the ones that you need to know for your compliance. Next, you have facilities and maintenance and operations. I've touched on that earlier. So your facilities management team, knowing which part of the campus are broken, what they need to go out and fix, which was important. We were talking about earlier about water management and leaks and how much wastage goes through those, and the operational teams that support that. Energy management and sustainability, a hot topic that we've been talking about today. Not just having a piece of software that records all of your energy usage, but letting you know where that energy usage is occurring, and if you're making any changes, is it making your sustainability, is it helping you reach your sustainability mission? Real estate and lease management, so knowing where all your leases are. So how long do you have to go on a lease? If anyone coming up, would that allow you then to have the opportunity to look at your occupancy data and allow you to restack your organisation? So if you have two buildings that aren't being used and aren't that busy, can you lose one of those leases and restack them into one? So having that information to hand. Capital projects, so it's the full life cycle here. So if you're starting your capital projects, instead of them being in a standalone system where they're managed and once they're delivered, you don't have to pick up all that information and pull it into another system, your IWMS system. If you've all got them in the same place, it's a natural progression for that information and that data. Compliance and risk, which is a really important one to us at UCL, is one that we spend a lot of time and effort because we have desperate systems holding all this information, and there's a lot of time and effort to bring that information together to then report on that every month because it's legislation that we have to do that. Data-driven decision making, like I touched on that earlier slide, having all of that data from all of those bits on the top there to allow you to make the right decisions for your organisation, not just for IT, not just for estates, but the whole organisation as a whole, and making the right decisions, moving you towards your smart campus ambitions. And finally, a really important one, which goes back to the music case I was talking about earlier, streamlining your user experience. If somebody feels they can just go onto a web front end, click a few buttons and log a problem with the toilet or with the lighting at their desk, and then they can forget about it and then they get an email saying it's been fixed or someone's coming to fix it, that is a brilliant user experience. So, I'm going to pause a minute and talk about how we're getting on that journey at UCL, and I touched on it earlier about bringing together a product team. So not only have we formed a product team, but we also have we formed a portfolio that cuts across. I would say I use the word cut across, but really brings together to collaborate together and co-create our estates and our IT teams who are seen. We more or less see ourselves as one now, working together cohesively in the same direction. And we're blessed with some of the agile methodologies that we've brought in, where we don't have a blame culture. We're allowed to make mistakes. We stand up and we say we make mistakes, and we all learn from those and move on. We co-collaborate and co-create, and we empower people to come up with the ideas. We lose that hierarchy and we bring people down. So me, if I'm talking about myself personally, in the role that I'm doing in this space, I have I would say a peer of mine as my manager, but you cut through all of that, and it's all about working together for the betterment of the organisation. And that's really, I feel really blessed to be allowed to do that and be in that situation. Right, so I'm going to start on UCL's journey now. It's really high level. I know I knew what I'm going to use the excuse, I knew what slot I had today, that's why I'm doing it, but that's not really the reason why. The reason why is because I'm a simple person, so that's why it's going to be at this level. So, we all like a good movie. The Good, the Bad, the Ugly is one of my favourites, and I'm going to take you through 3 experiences that we had on our journey so far. So starting with the good, when we kicked off and we started our journey with Plan On, there was a lot of debate and discussion about what would be the first modules that would bring in, what would make the most impact. And taking into consideration, there was a bit of a hidden agenda that you need to have information in the system in order to build all the other modules onto that. So buildings was the first thing that would need to go in, would be one of the first things that need to go into that. But also at the time we had a new provost, and one of his concerns was one of the biggest complaints that estates had and he would had was that our campus was looking very tired and wasn't looked after, but people had kind of given up on login issues because they just weren't being progressed or looked at in a timely manner. So what we did, we brought on reactive maintenance and help desk. So reactive maintenance being you call up and you say the toilet's broken, somebody goes out and fixes it. And the help desk element of that is who would handle them calls, triage them, and pass them out. And that was a huge success. It was before my watch. It was run by my predecessor in the team, but it's been a massive success, and I'm going to share some of that with you later on. So that was the good. The bad, I call it the bad because you can't really say the good, the complicated, the ugly. So it was more about the complication of this one. So building on having our buildings in the system, the next logical thing was to have your assets in the system. So assets would be things from your lifts and all the bits within inside the lift. It could be from that. It could be fire doors. It could be fire alarms. Anything that you class as an asset. All of those brought into the system and put into those space maps. That's where they're located, where they were. And then the second part of that was to bring on planned preventative maintenance, which is, if you have a look on the picture there on the your far left is a pressure valve, and those need to have maintenance. It's legislated that maintenance takes place on those over a set period throughout the year to make sure that they're safe. And you have to report back to say that you have done that, and if something's been spotted, what you've done to repair that. Now, what UCL had were those different assets were with different suppliers on different systems and in different places, and it took one person, 3 weeks a month to bring all that information. So basically it's someone's job to pull all that information together to report back on it monthly. By bringing all of those assets into the same place, we could do our planned preventative maintenance reporting, but more importantly, we could trust the planned preventative maintenance we were doing, because that was all around the safety of people. And we'll be bringing in things like fire doors, lifts, the fire doors, lifts, and fire assets will be the first ones that come across. So that was the second thing that we did. The ugly was something that was kind of like put upon us as a team, and it showed the true beauty of our team working agilely was that it was, I'm not going to get into the detail, but long story short, the system that we ran our capital projects and minor works on, that relationship with the supplier came to an abrupt end, and we had to transfer that functionality out of the old system into the new one. So something that normally would take about 8 to 10 months, we did in 2 months. And the gift behind doing this was having a team that was truly agile and could think in that way, but the partnerships that we worked with to help us do that, and that would be working with Plan On. So sitting there with Plan On and explaining the situation that we were in, and I must admit, they had a bit of a panic to start off with, let them calm down. They came back to the table and they said, okay, how can we make this happen? What's going to be the minimal viable product? And also working with the PMO team in the States, by having a very close relationship to them, they didn't sit there and say, well, we want it all and you need to do it in a short amount of time. They understood the challenges that we were in, and they came up with, well, this is what we'll be happy to go live with. And they actually agreed to having a window of having no system at all for a month to allow us to migrate from one to the other. So again, just leaning on that. So just pausing here to say, what has that allowed us to achieve so far? So we've had a huge increase in the number of help desk tickets being logged, a huge increase in the number of service requests and work orders that we've been able to turn around. And this has been achieved by a really good change management program running in the background to allow, well, not running in the foreground actually, to allow us to do this. And then the system being able, allowing the help desk to organise that work, to triage it and pull it in the right order, so then the actual operation teams can go out and fix this stuff. So that's some positive stuff that we've had out of there. Like I mentioned earlier, we're more confident now in our compliance reporting, and we've seen the benefit there, a cost benefit of we can repurpose somebody and make their job a bit more interesting, and the better user engagement and experience. So a little short story I can say about this. In my other hat that I wear, I manage the AV team, the AV design team, and this summer they were working in another product team to roll out the refresh of a number of spaces. I think I want to say 50 spaces on campus. And I went out to breakfast with a couple of those chaps, and they said to me, "Oh, that My Campus tool is really brilliant, because when we've logged tickets in it this year, the next day our things have been fixed, whereas previously they'd have to log tickets in the system, chase them up, go and get their contacts that they know to get things repaired for them." So, you know, some real good case studies and some real benefits that the organisation has seen. So, looking forward, what's the future for us and how are we going to tackle that? So, again, talking about the empowerment and us as a team being trusted, the senior leadership team has asked us as a product team to say, what do you think we should have in a roadmap for 2025? What are the things that you think we need to take forward and bring on? What are the modules we need to bring on? So we kind of like put out these four things that I've highlighted at the top there. What holds most risk? So what current systems do we have that have the most risk associated to them? Be it that they're unstable, they may be going end of support, maybe going end of life, or we just don't trust the information that's in them. What will bring the most benefit to us as an organisation and to our end users? So that user story thing that we were talking about earlier. What's going end of life? So hooks a bit into number one. If we know something's going to be going end of life and we're not going to renew that, relationship, then let's start talking about how do we get them moved over so we don't have that ugly thing that happened previously. And what do we want to do to progress us on our smart campus journey? So a bit of a loaded question, that number 4 one, because a lot of the ones above will help us realise that journey, as I was touching on earlier. If you put a lot of the things that you're putting in anyway will help you get onto that journey of being a smart campus. So how did we do this? We took once we highlighted the things that we thought would be coming across and we could tackle next year, we sat down and we planned as a team, breaking it into discovery, planning, delivery, and BAU. And we used this using Miro and Post-it notes, went down to the level of what resources will be doing what and over how long it would take. So for instance, if we were going to be doing, moving an application called RiskNet over, how long would the BAU need to be in discovery for that, for 4 months? And then coming down into planning, how long would we take to plan it and then deliver it? So we could properly resource plan and come up with a roadmap that looked like this to say what we want to do, what we want to do next year as the delivery for our IWMS tool. The next steps to that is that we're going to now then present that to the senior leadership team, because they don't give you full carte blanche, right? They want to have an input into it as well, rightfully so. So we're going to present to them that roadmap, the justification as to why we put things in there. So for instance, I mentioned one called RiskNet. The reason why we put that there was because we knew it was going to end of life. Justifications for items that we left in the backlog, for things that we're not going to do, and a reason why. For those items, the mitigation for them, why they can stay in the backlog, the risk of them staying there, and then also some stories that would help progress our journey on the smart journey as well. So that kind of like giving that a good blend in what we want to do in 2025. So some of the sexier stuff, but also the stuff that take us on the journey of bringing our IWMS system to where it needs to be. So what would that give us? What do we want to achieve? We want to manage our systems migration. So touching on that, if anything we know is going end of life and we're not going to have a future with it, and the place for it to be is in My Campus, our IWMS system, let's start to plan that. Centralised asset data and compliance reporting, I've touched on that. So having all of that data for compliance reporting in one place, so you can trust it and you know it's all there and it's all correct. Interfaces with our partners' FM systems. So we've got a strategy at UCL where we have, so for instance, in East London, we have 3 or 4 sites, and we'll be giving that to, we'll be going out to tender to have one FM supplier to own that. So it could be somebody like Vinci, and they will have their own IWMS systems. How do we get them both to talk to each other? Because we would need that, because as an organisation, as UCL, overall we'll have to produce our compliance reporting for all of our estate, regardless of if a third party looks after it. So getting those systems to talk to each other. And then the sexier stuff at the bottom that I've talked about there, that I've talked about previously, occupancy sensor, looking at our space utilization and how can we get some really in-depth, rich occupancy information to look at how our estate is being used, so we can plan our strategy for our estate going forward, and also looking at bringing timetable and room bookings into the system so that they're all done in one place. So the roadmap to smart, for us, we want some of the things that are really kind of coming to bubble into the front is digital wayfinding and space utilization. And an idea that we've had as an organisation is that not just these two things, but we would like to see smart in part of our campus operating with as much as we can get into that. So we've had an idea of creating a smart showroom, working with some partners and people who want to get involved in that, of creating an area where we have as much of a smart building as we can. If you can take it to digital twin, that's the utopia, but as much as we can of these things listed down the side there. And the reason for doing that is not just that we can say, look, this is what you get from a smart building, let's roll this out everywhere. It's so we can see which elements of a smart building we need in which spaces that we have. So for instance, a new build like Marshgate, you may want to load that with as much smart as you can because it's a greenfield, you're starting from the bottom, you've got the investment and you can get a lot of that benefit from doing that. The second building is our student accommodation that recently had a refit. So in the gift of having a refit, maybe you want to put some better space utilization in there, or do your people counting through your Wi-Fi, or look at your CO2 sensors in there and giving the students a better experience. And then the final one, when you have your listed buildings, you may not be able to do that much in there, but what from that smart showroom would you want to bring into there? So having that smart showroom, the idea behind that is to have a look at all the elements of smart and which ones are going to benefit us as an organisation the most. So the horizon, what it looks like I touched on, going forward with the digital wayfinding, space utilisation and our BMS systems, bringing those all into our RWMS system. What does that give us is the things that we've talked about a lot today. Sustainability, making us more sustainable. Cost, bringing down costs because you've got that information to manage your organisation and the user experience. And all of that is through that pink box that you've got there by having all of that information coming into that one place. So that's what the future is, what we want it to look like and the journey that we'll be going on. So you all know, those of you who know me all know that I like football and I do like sport and I do like sports psychology. So this is one of my heroes of the sport, is Ancelotti, who is, this picture was taken in 2013 when he won the European Championship for the first time with Real Madrid. And it's famously said that his team talk before the match was, now he was managing what they called the Galacticos at the time, which was more or less a team of prima donnas, but the best of the best of the best at football at the peak of their careers. And his team talk before they went out for the European Cup final was, you're all at the top of your careers, you're all at the pinnacle, you all know what you need to do, just go out and express yourself. And they went on to win. And that's how I feel blessed working in HE. And a lot of people I talk to in this room and the people I talk around when I meet them who work in HE, we feel we are quite blessed because we are allowed to go out there and express ourselves and do the best for our organisations. So when I showed this to my son, he said, "What is your team, do you compare your team to Real Madrid?" And I paused and I said, "Yeah, I do. I do actually, good things that we've achieved." So that's the end of my talk. Thank you very much for your time, everyone. Any questions? Go for it.
Jem. Somebody get the mic as well.
Hi, Mark Perry from PTS. Mohammed, a bit of a leading question because we've spoken about this before, but I think underpinning your ability to do that is the way your relationship with estates. What work's been happening in the background to develop that relationship?
Sorry?
Your relationship with estates.
What work's been happening? Oh.
So how did you get to the point where you had that relationship with estates that putting all these systems together was a bit smoother?
I think, I'm not going to take credit for it. There's somebody in the room who should take credit for it, but I think it was a lot of, well, it's not working the way it is right now, where estates are doing their things and maybe dictating to us what we do, and we're dictating to them, working in silos and trying to come together. I think both realised that it wasn't working. I think there was a change in some personnel and a change in attitudes, and then the willingness to collaborate and come together for the greater good. And where they saw that happening with projects like the ones in UCL East and the benefits that we got from that and how amazing that collaboration was, we've now built upon that because we can see it's the only way forward.
Maddie Maplethorpe from Apps Anywhere. Interesting to see how you're connecting the physical space and the physical campus. Is there a way you can talk about connecting that with a digital campus and I guess the digital experience of students accessing what is available to them online?
Yeah, so that is part of everything that we're delivering, right? It's like the benefits of what we're going to give to them students or those users. And you can see that in the things that we're doing around looking at digital wayfinding to making their experience better in that respect. And also the tool that we have, that My Campus tool for logging issues and anything that happens on the state, is open to students as well. So they're allowed to log issues using that front end of that tool. So we're bringing them on that journey with us as well.
Really useful stuff, thank you. Stella Paul here. What has been some of the key challenges that you faced along the journey?
That is a good question. I think the key challenges would be, one of the ones that I mentioned, the ugly, where things have just been dropped on us and we have to pause things or move things around and make them happen in. But I would say probably moving at pace with the amount of things that people want us to do. Everybody wants things done, want things to happen quickly, so trying to do that in a controlled manner and do them right, because we have developed MVPs, and something that we've found has happened is that once we've delivered that MVP and it's been bedded in for a period of time, we've received feedback on how it can be improved or what changes they want to happen. It's then finding the time to go back and do that. And then I think the other challenge would be budgeting and money. I think everybody's feeling the pinch at the moment, so it's making sure that you're using that investment that you've got to get the best benefit and the benefit that's needed first of all. So one of those would be the thing that we're really desperate for is space utilization information and getting that right, because it will give us more benefit in the long run, and also give us more if we've got better understanding how our spaces are being used and what they're being used for, and ones that aren't being used, then we'll be able to claw some of that money back in the future. Thank you very much, everyone.